football game. I'm at the grocery store.
What?
I'm at the combination football game and grocery store.
Wait, you're at the football game
What?
and the grocery store?
I'm at the combination football game and grocery store. Groceries through Instacart, delivered to my door. I don't have to choose between football and the grocery store.
Percolate on a particular mix of odd and inspiring news headlines in Wendy's Coffee House. Newsmakers with a penchant for the unknown, unexplained, and unusual share their experiences with UFOs, ghost encounters, near-death experiences, and more for your own unique blend of Wendy's Coffee House Curious. And now, here's Wendy.
I don't know about you, but it seems like it's noisier. Like just outside the house, stepping out in the yard, I don't remember it being quite as noisy as it is now. And along that same vein, I've been looking at the World Hum Project and the data and the research. I'm not the only one who thinks it's a little noisier. However, there might be differences in the kinds of noises that we hear. I'm going to have a guest today on Reincarnation, and we've talked with him before, Walter Semkiw. He's right now waiting, hanging on. We're going to get into that, but I wanted to go back into that World Hum map and the research because it isn't fiction. As a matter of fact, they've one of the guys, the doctor who's been studying this for a few years, decided that there were so many instances that he would start tracking it. He noticed it in 2012, and then he began to see that more people needed to participate, and they've got the database project. So if you heard this, sign on and check it out and see if it affects you. It's supposed to be like a low-frequency noise, and sometimes I have heard high-pitched ringing, and it's not tinnitus. I think that's a different thing, and there's a lot of stuff going on with noise at this point, an explosion, basically, of noises that we are getting used to and sometimes able to tune out and other times not. So check it out because that one is fascinating. And when I was going into that to try and see if there was, any kind of fix for it, which apparently there isn't, then I was looking at and this is an anechoic chamber, non-reflective, non-echoing, echo-free. This is designed to be completely void of sound. So what happens when you go in here, if you've never done it, I haven't, and I wanted to know, okay, would this be a fix? They say, no. It sounds good in theory, but if you stand in it long enough, you're going to hear your heartbeat. That's not bad. Ringing in your ears, then it amps up. Okay, so if you got a moderate ring right now, it's going to be going ting and deafening, and then if you move, your bones make a grinding noise. Eventually, you lose your balance because the absolute lack of reverberation sabotages your spatial awareness. I had to read that slow. Sabotage my train of thought. The thing is, I hadn't thought about what that's like. I think Microsoft has one, and there are some. They say basically the most that you can tolerate is 45 minutes. That's it. It will drive you crazy. So maybe the sound isn't so bad. However, they're trying to do something with the EMFs and the types of things that we're hearing because it could affect your equilibrium. It can make you feel anxious, nervous, all sorts of stuff. And so that's sound pollution. And it looks like it's going to be a bigger problem as we become more technologically adept, plugged in, all of that good stuff. Very few places you can go to avoid it. I wanted to talk with Walter because we talked reincarnation a while back and past lives and that kind of stuff. And I've been doing people who do past life therapy and regression therapy. And the thing about this is this has been something that other parts of the world have had decades to figure out and sort through and say they've got, data compiled. We're recent, but Walter has picked up on the research, and reincarnationresearch.com is the website. You can follow along. But Walter, what got you started? What was the trigger for getting you into this field?
Well, this all started uh, as I was trying to investigate my own possible past lifetime. And what happened is back in 1984, when I was in my medical training, a friend of mine said I should go visit this trance medium who channels your spirit guides. And at the time, I didn't believe in mediums or psychics, and but I did it anyway just to uh, have something to do. It was winter in Chicago, and there wasn't much else to do, and I thought it might just be amusing, if nothing else. And in the session with the medium, it seemed like the spirit guides knew things about my personal history, which they could not have possibly known uh, otherwise or by normal means. And they told me about two past lifetimes, and one of them was during the time of the American Revolution. And they said if I studied this person, I would see myself in physical appearance and personality traits and so forth. And at the time, I dismissed it. I didn't believe in it. But 12 years later, out of nowhere, when I was already working as a corporate medical director for an oil company, I got this, well, I guess it's intuition. It was actually a booming voice inside my head that said, go study this American Revolution past lifetime. And I never had anything like that happen to me before or since, but it was so powerful, I couldn't deny it. And that night I went to the bookstore and started to read up on the American Revolution to see if I could validate this proposed past lifetime. And in the process, I also became a scholar on reincarnation research. And, so this all started in, like 20 years ago when I started to do the research.
Yeah.
And since then, I built the website because I found there's an incredible amount of evidence of reincarnation, but people just don't know that it exists. And so, and I see how evidence of reincarnation can make the world a more peaceful place because it shows that people can change religion, nationality, and ethnic affiliation from one lifetime to another. And most wars and conflicts are based in differences on those cultural markers of identity. So I really sort of see promoting evidence of reincarnation as a way to help enact greater world peace.
Well, and you're following in the footsteps of a couple of guys who really launched this project, and that the University of the Division of Perceptual Studies. That's where Dr. Ian Stevenson, and he's deceased, but now Dr. Jim Tucker has taken over, and they were researching children. And this is fascinating because that's where the James Leininger case came out, and there are other stories that they have documented where the dots match, and that's fascinating. So it's nice to have this Western view and version of dots connecting with past lives. And so that's, I wanted to bring you back because last time we talked, you were saying, well, we didn't even get into phobias and people who come back as a different sex. So those issues of identity switch. And I thought, well, that's another way to touch on this, that what comes up with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of insight on reincarnation. Provides many insights on things we don't understand right now. For instance, like why a person will have a phobia to, say, cars, even though in their particular lifetime there was never a bad incident with a car, or if somebody has a irrational phobia of the sound of airplanes, even though the person had no bad experience with airplanes in their current lifetime. Also, why some people, some children are prodigies, and how does that happen? And many of these things can be explained by past life experiences.
I want to take a break here, and we'll come back first to kick it off with a very interesting case. And this is because this is someone who died in World War I and then describes experiences in heaven that include a telepathic cat. And I thought, okay, this is the one we got to start with because it's okay. So hold on a second. And if you're listening, the book, it's reincarnationresearch.com. But the book, Born Again, that's Walter's book, and that's also an interesting case to study, too. Back with more on Wendy's Coffee House, KCMO Talk Radio. Wendy's Coffee House, KCMO Talk Radio. Reincarnationresearch.com, that's the website. Walter Semkiw, author of Born Again, reincarnation cases involving evidence of past lives. All sorts of fantastic things are reported, and that includes what it's like to have a phobia and how that manifests in the present life. And if you can identify that, you might make it go away. But I wanted to get into the one before we move on. This is Terry Smith, died in World War I, and that was when the British ship Hood was sunk by the Nazis. And he describes going to heaven and welcoming committees there, but it also included a telepathic cat. This is unusual, and that's why I wanted to, because it's also legit, and that's what I wanted to get into, is sometimes we think these things can be so outrageous, and yet the dots connect. So, Walter, that's one of the ones you include on your website.
Right. So the Terry Smith case, this is a series of cases in which deceased individuals were able to directly describe what their experience of heaven or the afterlife is like. And the way this came about, it involves a medium named Leslie Flint, who lived in England, actually around the time of World War I. Between World War I and World War II is when he did his work. And, part of my research into reincarnation has involved investigating mediumship. And what a medium is somebody who can communicate with deceased people and share information to the client, who is usually a loved one who knew the deceased person. And there are different types of mediums. For instance, since 2001, I've worked with a trance medium, Kevin Ryerson, and the way he works is he goes into a meditative state or trance, and he lets spirit beings communicate directly with human beings using Kevin's body. So the spirit takes control of Kevin's voice box and actually the whole body. So when the spirit being comes through Kevin's voice changes, the accent changes, the personality is different, physical mannerisms are different, and I've worked with a particular spirit guide, Atun Ray, since 2001, who has demonstrated the ability to make accurate past life matches. And on the website, we have a whole bunch of celebrity and historic figure reincarnation cases that are based on my work with Kevin. Leslie Flint was a special kind of medium that's very rare. He's called a physical medium, which means he can manipulate energy. And for instance, some physical mediums can make physical objects move and all sorts of things. What Leslie Flint was able to do, and by the way, he had no conscious awareness of all this worked. mean, it was a mystery to him too, but he was able to essentially create a voice box out of energy that would sort of sit a couple feet above his head, which allowed spirits to talk directly through this energy voice box to people in the seance. And the person who came through was usually a relative of somebody in the room in the seance, and the dead relative, could then talk directly to his surviving relatives and describe what heaven is like. And that's what happened with this case involving Terry Smith.
What I find
He came through. I'm sorry.
Okay, what I find fascinating is you're talking about the physical mediumship, and Leslie Kane, when I interviewed her, one of the most profound cases she had was a physical medium. His name's Stuart Alexander, and this is something that he's current. And just, to back up what you're talking about, that this is very unique. And if you want to do some more research, if you're listening, then Leslie Kane covered that in her book, Surviving Death. It's a fascinating story and a fascinating way to look at it. But continue. So he was describing heaven through the medium.
Okay. So what happened was that Leslie Flint was having a medium session, a seance, where he called it direct voice mediumship, so that, instead of, for instance, using the larynx of Leslie Flint, the spirit was able to talk directly into the room so that the deceased relatives could recognize the person's voice and so forth. And the voice was the same voice as they had when they were alive. So Terry Smith was drowned when the British warship Hood was sunk by the German battleship Bismarck. A shell hit the ship, and he was blown up and later drowned. And so he came through Leslie Flint's mediumship, and they asked, well, what was your experience of death? And Terry said, well, it happened all of a sudden. And the first thing he realized after he was killed was that he was walking up a very beautiful street. And there were lovely trees and, kind of a description of what you would think heaven is like. And there were little cottages and bungalows. He said it was very pretty. It kind of looked like what California probably looked like, with, a lot of vegetation, greenery, very pleasant climate. Then he walks up to this village and sees a pretty young woman at a gate, at her house. And she invites him in for some lemonade. And so he said, okay, why not? I'll go for it. And so he goes into her little house, and he sees a black cat on a chair. And the cat looks at him and telepathically says, the cat says, how are you? Mm-hmm. And Terry said, oh my God, this is crazy. Cats can't talk. He didn't know what to say, what to do. It was all so bizarre. And then the woman who had invited him into the house said, well, you'll get used to that. She explained that animals, they have their own souls. And in the spirit world, we all communicate pretty much telepathically. And so animals, like pets from the prior lifetime, so a pet that you had in life, once you die and the pet dies, the two will be reunited in heaven. So, pets go with you into the spirit world. And in the spirit world, they communicate telepathically to express their thoughts.
I can imagine
And
what
then,
mine would say right now. We
yeah.
want more treats. Why were you so stingy? Okay, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, Walter. Just a minute. We got to take a break. We got to do some news and come back. But that's the fascinating part of this. Everything continues, and I wanted to bring that story through. But the next one, phobias. Phobias. It really makes a big difference. You can connect. You might be able to relieve a phobia. Wendy's Coffee House. Wendy's Coffee House, KCMO Talk Radio. My guest, Walter Semkiw, author of Born Again. And the website is reincarnationresearch.com. Some great stories and pictures, like you mentioned before. You can see in some cases, I mean, it's almost like identical. The person who's reincarnated and then the person that they found was the original template. But one of the things that we were talking about the pets, and I know telepathically, if you connect with your pets already, you can tell when the pet is giving you that little clue of, why are you not opening the food can? I don't want the dry bites. I want the wet bites. Okay. Well, it's probably better when you have a reacquaintance thing of, well, I forgive you. But with the next segment, though, going into the phobia issues and the gender issues, that's a part of the transition from one life to another. How does that manifest?
Well, first of all, let me just introduce this, that the cases involving the phobias and gender change across lifetimes, these come from the work of Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia. Stevenson was an academic psychiatrist who for 40 years traveled around the world studying young children who had spontaneous memories of past lifetimes. And he studied about 2,500 kids with these spontaneous past life memories. And in about 1,500 of those cases, Stevenson was actually able to validate the child's past life memories. The child typically starts talking about a past lifetime as soon as they're able to speak. They give vivid details of the past lifetime to the extent, which includes where they lived, who their family members in the past lifetime were, and so forth. The child gives enough information that the biologic family of the child can locate the past life family. And when the child is reunited with the past life family, the child can identify the family members by name or relationships, knows things that nobody outside the family would have known. And based on the child's knowledge, the past life family accepts the child as their deceased loved one. In 66% of these cases, the person in the past lifetime had a traumatic death, being hit by a car, dying in a plane crash, or whatever. And in 35% of those cases involving violent deaths, the child, the reincarnated child, had a phobia related to the cause of death in the past lifetime. So if somebody was struck by a car in the next lifetime, the child may have a intense fear of motor vehicles. So I picked out a case that involves both gender change and phobias. And this involves a woman named Ma in Burma. And the story goes like this. And Ma, by the way, remembered a past lifetime as a Japanese soldier in Burma. The story goes that the Japanese invaded Burma during World War II. And in Burma, the Burmese hated the Japanese because they committed atrocities. And in the town where Ma had her past life, her mother in the past lifetime was named Dao. And Dao was interested in cooking. There was a Japanese soldier who was a cook in the town where they lived, and Dao got to be friends with this Japanese cook, and they would discuss cooking methods and so forth. And what would happen, since this town was near a railroad station, the Allies would bomb and strafe the village twice a day. And the villagers would run into the jungle during the day to avoid the bombings, but then come back at night, to return to their homes. Well, Dao lost track of the Japanese cook, and life went on. The war ended in 1945, and then about 8 years later, Dao got pregnant, had a girl who she called Ma. And Ma, once she was able to speak, related detailed memories of her past lifetime as this Japanese cook. And she said that she was from the north of Japan in the past lifetime, that she had 5 children, and expressed longing to go back to Japan, which was very unusual for a Burmese girl, because, again, the Burmese despised the Japanese because of war crimes. And in addition, she had, as a child, an intense phobia of airplanes. So whenever she would hear a plane in the sky, she would cry, express fear, run into the house. And her father would try to reassure her, saying, well, planes don't shoot people anymore. That was before, during the war, but this is peacetime, and there haven't been any strafings since 1945. But that did not satisfy Ma at all, and she continued to have this phobia. Well, this is a case where there was gender change. A male Japanese soldier reincarnated as a Burmese girl. And by the way, the reason that the Japanese soldier reincarnated to Dao is that the cases show that we reincarnate to people we've known and liked before. But Dao, even though she was Ma, even though she was a girl, she still identified as being a man, a boy. Mm-hmm. And she would only wear men's clothing. When she had her first menstrual cycle, she was like aghast and said, this is not fitting for a man. She said, I would rather have been born as a man so I could fight with other men in the military. And she had no attraction to men. So having the mindset of a man, she was still attracted to women sexually. Mm-hmm. And indeed, Ma became a lesbian and settled down with another woman. So this both shows phobia and how gender change through reincarnation can lead to homosexuality or gender identity issues. And there's a number of cases that show this. And on the website,
Hold on, Walter. Just a minute, Walter. Let's come back. We need to take a break, but we're going to come back again. Reincarnationresearch.com. That's the website he's referring to. My guest, Walter Semkiw, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those issues. But the other thing too, that the time between past life between the death and rebirth, because that's also interesting too, and it does make a difference whether it's a suicide that factors in. Wendy's Coffee House, KCMO Talk Radio. Wendy's Coffee House, KCMO Talk Radio. Like deja vu all over again. Okay, fine, that was Yogi Berra, not me. Okay, I have had a past life memory. It was one of those where it was completely unexpected during a massage session. I'm not going to go into it. But when they say the issues are in the tissues, yeah, because it was a trigger, and I had the memory, the whole 9 yards. It's really dramatic, like this music. Over and over. It must have some kind of a build. Whoa. Okay. And hopefully there we go. Peaceful ending. Walter Semkiw, my guest, and I interrupted you right in the middle of the story where they had both a gender issue and a phobia. And that's the cool thing of, going back and connecting the dots. A lot of these stories make sense when you're able to figure out how it manifests in the present life. So I'm sorry I interrupted, but we had to take a break. So continue.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention in the case where the Japanese soldier, the cook, reincarnated as a Burmese woman, and both had phobias related to the manner of death, and also had gender identity issues, actually homosexuality due to change in religion through reincarnation. It's an example where a enemy reincarnated as in the community that they were fighting against. So the Japanese cook reincarnated as a Burmese woman. The Japanese were fighting the Burmese, and it shows how we can change nationality through reincarnation, and it demonstrates the futility of war when the person you're fighting, you could end up reincarnating in that same group that you're fighting against. There's also another set of reincarnation cases that are very similar, where two Japanese brothers in Burma reincarnated as Burmese twin girls. And to me, what's mind-boggling is how the soul can plan lifetimes and even affect the process of conception to engineer being born as twins. And those twin girls also had memories of their Japanese past lifetimes, and they also still identified in terms of mindset as males, and they also developed gender identity issues, just like in the case of the Japanese cook. So understanding that we can change nationality, ethnicity, and religion can help prevent wars in the future. And another case, actually, that demonstrates this dramatically is the reincarnation case of Anne Frank, which, we discussed during the prior interview.
Yeah.
But, Barbara Carlin was Anne Frank in a past lifetime. She reincarnated into a Christian family in Sweden. And I point out that if the Nazis knew you could be born Jewish in one lifetime and Christian in another, the Holocaust could have never happened.
Oh, that might be a little bit of deja vu happening now. I want to switch gears because the thing about when people are studying the time, the length, I think is fascinating. The research that you have says that there's an interval, the median interval between the past life death and the rebirth, 16 months, about a year and a half. That's really quick.
Yeah. So that's the medium interval between lifetimes. Medium means that half the people were born in a shorter interval. So the median between lifetimes was 1.5 years, basically. Medium means that half the subjects the interval was a little shorter than that, and half the subjects it was longer. When you average all the numbers, which would be, it's called the mean, or the overall average, the average between lifetimes was 4.5 years. So the implication of this is, we are all reincarnating continuously. And that means all the famous people in history have been reincarnating also, and I mentioned in working with Kevin Ryerson, we've identified probably over 1,000 celebrity and historic figure cases where the historic person is identified in contemporary times. And in general, they're doing the same thing. We tend to have the same interests and passions. They have the same facial features and the whole kit and caboodle. And so in this way, reincarnation research makes history come alive.
Yeah.
It's not that these people lived once and they're gone. They keep coming back. So, on the website, on the left-hand side of the homepage, there's a whole list of category of cases. So you can press on gender change or phobias, physical resemblances, the cases involving Leslie Flint are under the category spirit communication, and then down at the bottom there's a tab for celebrity reincarnation cases.
Well, see, the whole thing is fascinating. What I mentioned before we went to the break was about the suicide. And the difference between that is that the average interval is about 3 months. So it's like if you think you're going to check out because things aren't good now, then there's whatever you left undone, you still have to come back and go, well, okay, take two.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's odd. I figured, if that's it, then you're done. It's like, no, you have to come back and start over and take a better run at it this time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And by the way, in my opinion, this evidence of reincarnation is really going to displace established religions, who what they teach is oftentimes not really based on fact. So at least the Christian church, I believe they say that if somebody suicides, they go to purgatory and they're there forever. Well, it doesn't work that way. Life is for learning, and if you cut your life short, it just means you're going to have to come back and kind of go through the same trials, but hopefully not suicide again.
Well, see, that's part of it, though. I was surprised it was 3 months. So it does speak to the fact that, okay, it didn't work, but this is a different aspect, a different perspective, a different opportunity to come back and take a different, a different lifetime to address those issues. We're going to have to go, but the book and the website, Reincarnation Research, you're still accepting stories. This isn't ending. This is ongoing, right?
Correct. And also, we have a Facebook page, which is called Reincarnation Research. If you go to that page, or if you just go to the website and click that you like the website, you'll automatically get notifications of when I put up new cases, and I put up new cases all the time.
Okay. Walter Semkiw, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I think the work that you're doing is fascinating, and having my own experience, remembering a past life, I'm trying to work up.
Yeah,
so
we all are.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I have a few things I need to work out this time, so I'm sure I'll be back again, kicking and screaming all the way, going, no, not yet. So in the meantime, the website is reincarnationresearch.com, the book Born Again, Walter Semkiw, my guest. And whatever you're doing, there's only so many ways to get it right. And if it doesn't happen this time, then remember, it's all good. Come back and do it again. And watch out for those cats. Be nice. Thanks for listening. See ya.
When things feel a bit chaotic, Instacart helps deliver milk and sausage. Add a little life to your cart. Get stuff from literally all your stores, from baby wipes to albacore. Add a little life to your cart. Instacart helps get your groceries. Your first 3 deliveries are free.
Download Instacart. Add life to cart. Terms apply.
So, you've got an idea for a business. The store of your dreams. There's just one thing to figure out. Everything. That's why Shopify's all-in-one commerce platform makes it easy to sell online, in person, and everywhere else. Sell on social media. Source products with an app to get that first sale feeling. It's the only solution that gives you everything you need to sell everywhere you want. So when you're ready to bring your idea to life, power it up with Shopify.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen.